Alright, we've got a few more examples. If at any time you feel like you've got this or you want to try, stop the video, try it out, and then play it and see how you did compared to what I show you. Alright, remember step 1 is look for the greatest common factor, and I don't have x's in every single term, so I don't have any x's for a greatest common factor, but 3, a prime number, 15 is divisible by 3, so is 42. So we have a greatest common factor to consider before anything else. We're going to factor that greatest common factor out. It's like division, so 42 divided by 3. 3 goes into the 4 one time with 1 left over, and then it's 14 left. So 3 times 14 is 42. X squared plus 15 divided by 3 is 5. And there's also an x there. And then 3 divided by 3 is 1. Now, A is 14, B is 5, and C is negative 1. A times C, 14 times 1, negative 14. Let's see, the B is 5. It goes right there. First term is going to be 14x squared. Notice I'm using not the original 42x squared, but I'm using the polynomial after I factored out the 3. So the 14x squared for the first term and negative 1 for the last term. Time to do the meat of the problem here and figure out what these factors are. I want two factors, or two numbers that multiply and I get 14. So I'm going to write factor pairs of 14, 1 and 14, 2 and 7, and that's it. And I want the sum of them to be 5. Well, one of them is going to be a negative, so you could think difference. So a positive 7 and a negative 2 will do the trick. So one of these boxes gets a negative 2, include the x. The other one gets a 7, include the x. Now, greatest common factors. Positive. There's no x. There's nothing here but a 1. So we do put a 1 there. A 14 and a 2. The greatest common factor is 2, and there will be an x as well because we have an x squared and an x. It'll be positive because remember this box is positive, so this one's positive. This will be negative, however, because the number in this box is negative. A negative 1 and a negative 2x, it's a negative 1. 14 and 7, a 7, and x squared and x, and x. So, ready for the answer. We have factors of 7x minus 1 and 2x minus 1. Now, if I multiply these together, I get 14x squared as my leading term, but that doesn't match this. The reason is we got to bring this greatest common factor that we took out in step 1 back in at the end because it was part of factoring it completely. We factored it out originally to make these numbers nice and small, way more manageable. If not, I would have had to got out the graphing calculator and figured out, let's see, factors of 128. We're going to be factoring 4x squared plus 10x minus 24. I look for a greatest common factor. All these terms are even. They're not all divisible by 4, but they are all divisible by 2. So my greatest common factor is 2. And when I factor that out, I'm going to get 2x squared plus 5x minus 12. Alright, remember that 2 is going to be part of our final answer, so I'm going to put a 2 there, and then the two factors that I'm going to get from here and there will come later. My A is 2, my B is 5, and my C is negative 12. My first term is 2x squared. My last term is negative 12. A times C is negative 24. My B is 5. I need factors of 24. 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6. And then they go flip, 6 and 4, 8 and 3, etc. AC, negative, so I'm going to be looking for the difference of these numbers that equal 5, and that's going to be the 8 and the 3. The difference is a positive 5, so a positive 8 and a negative 3. So an 8x in one of the boxes, a negative 3x in another box. Greatest common factor here, an x. Greatest common factor here, a 4. So I'll have an x plus 4 here. And greatest common factor here, a 2x. And here, a negative 3. So 2x minus 3. And let's check and be done. We can go ahead and multiply this through. And we get 2x plus 8. Then we're going to multiply that by 2x minus 3. Here's a 4x squared. Here is a negative 24. Here's a 16x. And here is a negative 6x. And 16x minus 6x is 10x. And it's positive. So, yep, checks out. Perfect. My answer is right here. Alright, next one. Greatest common factor? No, because 3 is prime and 11 is also prime. So, first term, 10x squared. Last term, 3. A times C is 30, and it's positive. B is 11. And I want to write factor pairs of 30 over here. 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, no 4s, a 5 and a 6, and that's it. They're both going to be positive because that's positive. Well, in fact, what it says is they have the same sign. So a 5 and a 6, and they multiply together to get 30. You add them together and you get 11. So I've got a 5x and a 6x. Alright, so it's time to factor and get our answer. Factor out the greatest common factor for each row and column. Here it's 1. 5 and 3 are relatively prime. 10 and 6, the greatest common factor is 2x. For the 10x squared and the 5x, it's 5x. And for the 6x and the 3, it's 3. So we have factors of 5x plus 3 and 2x plus 1. And let's actually do the multiplication and check our answer. 5x times 2x is 10x squared. That matches up with that, so we're good so far. A 3 times a 1 is a 3, so I've got that term and that term. And now I've got a 6x and a 5x, and that's a total of 11x, and that's that term. So all the terms come out. When I do the distribution, I get this back.